That's what I call Johnny on the spot.
That's right. 2 o'clock.
I was born in Denver, Virginia, and I moved to Richmond when I was 12 years old. Grew up there and fell in love at 16. He took me to the movie and his mother escorted us, and she sat between us at the Bird Theater. Courted 6 years, and finally we decided to get married. In 1939 he was drafted and I followed him to Texas. I lived in Texas 3.5 years as an Army wife. Got a job on the post.
What'd you do there?
I was in ordnance. I counted bullets. And when the war was over and they announced it on the loudspeaker, we all went out in the yard and I threw bullets up in the air and they just fell down. The war was over. He was transferred to Fort Bragg, so we lived there for 9 months, and he was discharged and we came home. Then he was no job, out of a job, and I'm an Army wife, and we were just starting out, you know. I had my first child in 1937, and then 9 years later I had my second child. I had 2 wonderful boys. We built our first home with a GI loan.
Yeah.
And lived there for 40 years. And my husband, we sold our home and moved to an apartment, and he died 3 months later. So I decided rather than live with my children, I applied to come into the home because he was a mason.
Well, when did you start crocheting? How did that come about?
I crocheted. My mother taught me how to crochet. We sat for nights and just crochet. She taught me how to crochet. So after she died, I was bored to death, and 9/11, that's how it all started. Okay. I was sitting in here and 9/11, I was real patriotic. I was glued to the TV, and I picked up my needle and I started putting on stitches, and I ended up with an American flag. And I sat here and I had stripe after stripe after stripe. So it was about 7 o'clock one night and I finished a flag. And I went out at 7 o'clock at night. We had a gossip corner up here where everybody goes and gossips, you know. Yeah. I took that flag after I sewed those stars on and walked up there to the gossip corner and I held it up and I said, look what I did. And I showed the American flag. Yeah. That was the beginning of the American flag. I have made hundreds of American flags. I've got American flags in Mexico, North Carolina, South Carolina, everywhere that I made, and people that I knew wanted it, and I made it for them.
All right, and any parting words for anybody who's watching this? Any knowledge you want to bestow on people?
Oh, I just eat good, sleep good, and be merry.